Hi, everyone. Welcome to Second Wind Women. I'm here today with Cori Myka. Cori is the founder of Calm Within Swim. It is hmm, an adult swim school where she helps adults overcome their fear of water through a structured, mindset first approach. You can learn more at her website. It's called Calm Within Adult Swim, I'm assuming.com.
Yeah. It's actually
Yeah.
adultswimlesson.com is the website.
Really? You
Adult
got
Swim.
adultswimlesson.com? That's a good domain name.
It is, yes. We switched a few years ago. We have our local program, which is called Orca Swim School. And then I was like, oh, why am I not adult swim lesson? So we picked that one up.
Wow. That's like franchising across the United States kinda domain name.
Yeah. Well, when you teach online, you can do that.
So so you teach swim lessons online?
We do
I
teach swim
I
lessons
did not
online.
get that when we talked before. Tell me more. Or
I know,
maybe I
isn't
just
that
didn't remember.
crazy?
Yeah, maybe I just didn't remember.
Yeah, back in what feels like forever ago now, back in 2029, I decided, put our stuff online because we have people who fly in for our program because they're what how we teach is very unique and special, and so we get people who come in from all over the place. So people would always ask, "Do you teach here? Or do you teach there?" And I'm like, "I'd love to teach in all the places, can't." Well, so online teaching, right? That's the way you can do it. So I thought this needs to be accessible to more people. So I kind of on a whim put it out as, online courses and was
Mhm.
unsure was that going to work. But amazingly, because we're talking about adults, right? They
Right.
are self motivated. And I'm curious. And so you can take the information and go to a public pool and do it step by step. And we're giving people information that is so small and granular and um, filling in missing pieces that when they take traditional swimming lessons, they're like, why is everything going so fast? I just talked to a woman yesterday and she's like, I'm in the beginning class, but everybody already seems to know how to swim. Like something seems wrong. I don't feel like
Mhm.
I'm in the right place. And so we answer those questions. And ultimately everybody's their own teacher, in it.
Yeah.
And so being having the right like steps to go in and experiment and get out of the old patterns of swimming is front crawl and working really hard. Like there's a lot of myths about what swimming is.
Mhm.
And so we break that down. And so people are quite successful doing it online. So kind of blew me out of the water that it works, but, it does, and I have, yeah, students all over the planet now who can, learn to swim with us, which is really fun.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. I was gonna ask, like, do people bring their laptop to the side of the pool? Like?
When I very first did it, I put my laptop on a kickboard and floated it in the pool and took a picture of it, right? Like, you have to have some catchy picture, right? So, yeah.
My gosh, that is a catchy picture. Oh, wow. Okay. So how do how do people I mean, I guess people find you online, but how do people hear about your program? It's such a I never in a million years would have thought that that was a possible thing to teach swimming lessons online.
Well, I mean, kind of what tickled my idea on it, I mean, there are several things, but one of the things, I mean, you think when people have a how to question, how do I do this physical thing? Generally speaking, people go to YouTube, right? And so there's all
Right.
kinds of tutorials there. So when I really started our YouTube channel. And because there's all kinds, people go there all the time for learn to swim tips or other,
Mhm.
how to things. And so that's really our kind of primary place, uh, social place is to put out, short how tos on there. And so that's how people by and large on the national or international platform
Right.
have found us is how to keep water out of my nose, how do I see underwater, how do I tread water, which everybody thinks is a beginning thing and it's really a much later thing. So Um,
Yeah, okay. Wow, alright. Yeah, I remember when I took swimming lessons as a kid, and I remember when they had us go in the water with our clothes on, and we had to take off our jeans and tie them up and blow them up like a balloon. But I guess if you'd never done a swimming class, you wouldn't know that that was even a possibility, right? That's
you wouldn't know
interesting.
that's a possibility. And I always wonder about that. I mean, I've taught that, I've done that. I'm like, does anybody actually do that in reality? I don't know.
I mean, if you don't have anything to help you float and jeans are heavy, right? I
I
don't know how
think
long they'd hold water being wet. I don't know.
hold air, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, you do have to, I mean, even when you do those in, in the pool as simulation, you do have to refill them, but,
Oh,
um,
you do?
it yeah, I mean, I think the thing that it does teach is it teaches a certain amount of, presence and slowing down. Like, if you really were in a situation like that, I mean, that's really what people need. They
Mhm.
need to be able, if you're in a I'm in the fell off the boat and I gotta wait hours and hours and hours for somebody to come back and get me. The biggest thing that you need is calm presence.
Right.
Um, and, yeah, that's the biggest thing that you need. So I think, yeah, being able to do the challenge of tying up your clothes while you're floating, and not getting yourself overtired doing it and being able to slow down in the process of doing it, I think that's the essential
Right.
lesson that people get when they learn that how to do that. It's less about actually floating on your clothes.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you have a lot of people who seek you out, like, you know, we're recording this on January 7th. Do you have a lot of people who seek you out at the beginning of the year because 'cause they're like, "This is the year I'm gonna learn either how to swim or how not to be afraid of the water."
Yeah, absolutely. Our January classes are full, which is amazing. We're in Seattle and we actually teach outside. And but they're full and those brave souls come out. The water's 94 degrees, so the water's totally fine. It's the
Amazing.
getting out afterwards that's a little chilly.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's a it provides a little wonderful drop of tropicalness in the middle of winter. So
Yeah,
yes,
totally.
absolutely. Yeah, people yeah.
So how how common is it for people to be afraid of water?
That's a great question, that I love to talk about because it's actually super common. I over half of adults don't know how to swim, or are afraid in deep water, oceans and lakes. Yeah. Um, People, I always tell my adult students who do come out that they're very special because, right, that like, oh, they have this thing, they know what it is, and they're willing to do something about it because once they learn how to swim, then they go to places and they start to look around with a more careful eye. And they're like, oh, I just assumed that all these people could swim. But yeah, why do all those people have dry hair? And why are there more people sitting on the sidelines than actually in the water? Right? We
Mhm.
love being on and around the water, but more people don't know how to swim than do know how to swim.
That's fascinating. Wow. Wow. Yeah, yeah, I have a friend who's from, Central Asia, and nobody there knows how to swim because the only you know, from kind of a wild area, because the only real water they have is rivers, and that's not a good place to learn how to swim.
Right. Yes. Yeah. No, I do. Yeah. We have students who come from India, and I've heard several times about learning to swim in a well. And I'm like, that sounds like a terrible idea. I think it's a different kind of well than I think about here in the US, where I just
Might be
remember
like a
when I
big
was,
square thing. Yeah.
yes, like, and stories of children falling into wells and things like that from I think they're more like ponds, but
Mhm.
what we would call a pond here,
Or a
but
cistern maybe. Yeah.
yeah, something like that, but
Mhm.
oftentimes have these straight sides,
Oh my
so
gosh, that's
and are deep.
scary. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so it's understandable, and I think I also say a lot, parents have 2 kind of very loving choices around teaching their children to swim. One is to teach them to be afraid. Because if you're afraid, then you're never going to get in and you're never going to drown. And so when you're talking about
Right.
places where the water, you have very variable water, right? Rivers or ponds or animals in them or, currents and that sort of thing. Teaching somebody to be afraid so they don't go in, it, it's not really it's not a bad strategy.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was gonna say, it's a strategy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a bad strategy. So I don't blame people or want people to feel badly about
Mhm.
that being the strategy that they have. And the other one is that, parents will like push their kids into learning to swim. And so we see that too. And for some people that's successful and some people um, that is not successful.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I remember, as our previous lead-in conversation, I remember getting up and going to the swimming pool at, like, 6:30 or 7 in the morning as a kid in the cold summer mornings being like, "Oh, why do I have to do this?" You
Mm.
know? But now I know how to swim. But I am afraid of the ocean, for sure, and partially, I think because I live in a land like many, many people do, live in a landlocked area. All that around here are big lakes, and lakes are dirty and gross, and I'm not a big fan of jumping in lakes. Swimming pool's fine, but the ocean, like, I went to Mexico a few years ago, and I was walking on the beach, and the ocean just picked me up, flipped me upside down, just like that, and I was like, "Oh, shit, this is some major power happening here," and I think it's, like, kind of the fear of the unknown, which is different than being afraid of, like, you know, a bathtub, right? So, different levels of being afraid of water, some reasonable, some less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, for sure. And I mean, and to be fair to the person who is afraid in a bathtub. Generally, I don't think people are afraid of the bath, but putting their face in the water, it's an environment that you can't breathe
Right.
when your face is in the water. So it makes sense. It's biological, right? And and I just offer for people to have a lot of kindness and compassion when
Mhm.
they come up against the feeling of fear, because anytime we sort of diminish that, it doesn't give us opportunity to understand it and help it unfold. It's there for a reason and a purpose,
Right.
and can we be curious with it? Can we see which pieces are still needed and which pieces are not needed? That kind of thing. So we want to just and like you say, for the ocean, for open water, people are much more willing to say, "Yeah, it's a good idea." And but that's the place too to say, I'm open water swimmer. I swim in lakes and oceans and things. But I don't just hop in anywhere, anytime. I learn about it. I investigate it. I
Yeah.
use that sense of fear to help me know, is this the right place and the right time and situation for me to be swimming in?
Yeah, and this is really why I wanted to talk with you, because of your focus on, teaching adults how to deal with fear and how to use it effectively as a tool, right? And that's kind of what we're getting into here about making decisions about, you know, you don't know what you don't know, and to just say that all fear is just going to hold you back is that's not logical or helpful. It's dangerous.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think about, my myself. I don't have a fear of swimming per se. I do use it, like I just said, as a tool, but for me it's going to the doctor. Like I have a lot of past trauma around body kinds of things, and it shows up with going to medical situations. And so
Mhm.
yeah, I use the same tools to help me engage in the medical field, because I do want to engage with the medical field
Right, right,
in to a certain capacity. But yeah, I don't just like give myself over to it either. So how do I use these same tools to be able to take care of my health um, without sacrificing my mental health in order to do
right.
it?
And if you're not paralyzed by fear, then you can do that investigative process, right? If you're paralyzed by fear, then there's you're not going to ever go to the doctor, right? You're not
Mhm.
ever going to get in the ocean. You're going to be like, "Oh, toes, maybe."
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to Portugal, 2 years ago, and we were on the southern coast of Portugal, and there was this nice beach, and they had little flag. We figured out what the flag meant, and it was a long beach, and I was at the edges. I'm like, "Oh, that'd be a cool place to swim." And then I noticed how hard the ocean was hitting the rocks, and that there were rocks on that side, on the sides of the beach, and I was like, "Oh, wait a minute. There's a reason why everybody's towards the middle, even though it's less protected from the wind." Yeah,
Mm. Mhm,
yeah, but you
mhm.
have to have the motivation, right? You have to have the motivation to, look up what doctor you're gonna go to or go down to the beach, right?
Well, the motivation and, I'll go back to the idea of the kind curiosity, that you could be standing on the beach saying, especially if you see somebody else out there or something, saying, I should be doing this and just get over
Right.
yourself. And we're very taught in society to be judgmental to ourselves and critical and like, come on, just pick yourself up by the bootstrap kind of
Mhm.
mentality. And it doesn't leave room for you to do exactly what you said. Like, oh, wait, if I'm kindly curious, I can see there's rocks over there. Not a good idea. This is a better place over here. And yeah, so it really has to do with how we approach it and how we approach our own treating of ourselves.
That's very American. It's like the stereotypical, like, voiceover for the movie, "One man, one mountain," And, you're just out there on the beach and you see this little kid swimming way out there and you're like, "Why can't I do that? That little kid could do that." Right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So how did you get started? How did you decide to open your own swim school? I mean, it's kind of a unique path.
It is a unique path. It's one I think I somewhat stumbled upon in terms of that. It was something teaching swimming, lifeguarding, something I always did, high school, college, the summer job, the typical summer job thing.
Mhm.
Y- Started very, very young in terms of it was my way to get out of having to go to summer camp that was really daycare, go volunteer at the pool
Right.
instead. How can mom make sure that I'm occupied all summer kind of things?
Mhm.
Yeah. And at one point, remember my dad, he just kind of dropped the idea like, why don't you teach swimming for yourself? Like, why don't you teach some private lessons or do your own thing? And I think that nugget sat back in the back of my head.
Mhm.
Went off, did college and that sort of thing. As I was trying to figure out what my grown up life was going to be, I decided, well, give it a try. I have nothing to lose at that point in time. And so we being my now husband and I, we weren't married at the time, but um, it was easier to start a business than a marriage.
Yeah, to start, but yeah, probably equally as hard to maintain.
Exactly, yes.
Uh-huh.
So, anyways, yeah, so we kind of, gave it a shot, and put our shingle out there, and, almost literally to putting our shingle, in the before the internet days even, so, yeah, so we gave it a whirl. We were working with kids mostly at that time because that's sort of
Mhm.
the traditional path, but as I did that, we would get some adults that would come in, and, those were the ones who provided curiosity for me. So that when you talk about motivation to continue on, my drive to want to learn something interesting and different is what's really kept me in the business all these years. And so it was those adults that I said, nobody's serving them really, and
Right.
I'm teaching them, but they don't feel like swimmers. So something's not right with the way that I'm teaching them. They're tuning in, but they're still petrified. They still don't feel like swimmers, even though they can do the physical tasks. And so
Mhm.
that really built up my curiosity to see, what else do I need to be doing here? I need to be doing something different than just teaching them arms and legs. So
Yeah, so
yeah,
what
then
kind of mindset things do you work on to help people feel like swimmers, whatever that means?
yeah. Well, it was interesting earlier you said use the word paralyzed with fear. And I think this is so good. This is kind of one of the key pieces that we miss is that to paralyzed with fear is a phrase that we use, but it is literally something that happens to our
Yeah,
body, right?
yeah.
I mean, you have a thought. There's a thought that comes in that literally freezes your body.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we all know this experience and we have the experience of like butterflies in our stomach or like I've had the experience actually the experience that helped me really unfold my anxiety around medical stuff is I have this feeling of a lump in my throat. I like actually thought there was something wrong like I must have some cancer or something because there's this feeling
Uh-huh.
of lump in my throat, but it's really it was a physiological reaction, right? So
Mhm.
this is this body mind connection is the piece that is missing in general instruction because general instruction is teaching people do this and that with your arms and your legs and then people
Keep your
say
fingers together. Mhm,
yeah,
yeah.
why
Mhm.
is it I'm not connected? I still feel stiff. They still have somewhere on the spectrum of paralyzed with fear. There's a tenseness to the body that
Mhm.
is still there. So I'm doing the things correctly, but this body mind connection is what's missing. And so that's the piece that we really start with is
Mhm.
how do I it's not just get in and just do it. It's tune into the body and see, is the body ready to get in? Is the
Right.
brain and the body matching up? You know, your brain saying, go,
Mhm.
go, go, but your body is frozen. Not time to go yet. It's time to bring in
Right.
that kind curiosity.
I have a crazy question for you. Ever since I was a teenager and I saw Jaws, every time I jump off a diving board and I'm coming up, I'm looking in the corners of the pool to see if there's something coming after me. Every single time. This is since I was like 12 years old.
Your brain tells
Right.
you all the time about terrible scenarios and us learning how to counter that, not with arguments, other mental arguments, but how do I slow down into the body, use my senses to get true information.
Yeah.
And it actually activates a different part of your brain. And so we do, this is what I teach people in coaching, outside of the water is how often we need to get ourselves out of that thinking part of our brain into the feeling part of our brain. And it
Mhm.
makes a huge difference in the quality in our life.